On May 12, 2022, a surveyor working in a wooded area behind the National Guard Armory in Wadesboro, North Carolina, made a very grim discovery. The skeletal remains of a woman. The body was found partially clothed and badly decomposed, indicating it had been exposed to the elements for many months. Authorities later estimated the woman had been dead anywhere from several months to around a year by the time she was found. The location of the remains was noteworthy. They were discovered just behind a National Guard armory on the outskirts of Wadesboro, not far from a middle school, a Taco Bell, and other locational businesses, meaning that despite this being a wooded area, it was hardly secluded. Raising the question, how could this have not been noticed sooner? The forensic examination provided a basic physical profile of the Jane Doe. She was determined to be a white female, estimated between 30 and 40 years old, and of moderate height. Given the skeletal state, an exact height couldn't be measured, but anthropologists estimated a range from around 3'5" to 3'11". Weight, hair color, and eye color could not be determined from the remains. No obvious signs of trauma were reported publicly, and as noted, the cause of death remained undetermined. The body was found partially clothed, with the remains of the clothes being a black Secret Treasure branded bra and leggings. There were no ID, no shoes, no belongings outside of the decaying clothes. From the condition of the bones, investigators pieced together that the woman had most likely died sometime in 2021. With no immediate matches to the local missing persons, the case presented a very perplexing mystery. Who was this woman? And what happened to her? Sometime during this investigation, a private landowner within Wadesboro came forward with something unexpected. On the 22nd night of August 2021, a motion-activated wildlife camera set up at a deer feeding station would go off, taking some of the most disturbing pictures of what could be some of our Jane Doe's final moments. As you can see, the images match near identical to the remains of what our Jane Doe had on, but it has some disturbing implications. Her clothes appear wet, suggesting that she may have passed through a body of water. A creek is located not too far from where she is, so it's quite possible. Through the woods in the early morning hours, in one pair of the photos time-stamped around 1:33 a.m., the woman is seen moving briskly past a deer feeder. Another set of images taken between 4:30 and 4:33 a.m. the same night show the woman, now moving more slowly and with a noticeable limp, using a stick or branch like a walking cane to steady herself while navigating the underbrush. She appears disoriented and half-dressed. Despite the fact that investigators had a lead and a face, nothing would come of it. For some reason, the police were staying quiet, as it wasn't even until 2024 that these images were officially released to the public. This, of course, sparked more and more curiosity within the public, and had many online denizens take up the investigations themselves. Another discovery connected to this case was an abandoned backpack found around the area. In February 2022, about 3 months before the remains were discovered, a pair of rabbit hunters came across a backpack in the woods not too far from where the body would be later found. According to the account eventually given to the police, the hunters opened the bag, found some cash, which they admittedly took, and then left the backpack where they found it. They did report the find to local law enforcement, but by the time authorities went to search for the bag, it had already vanished and could not be located again. In the immediate aftermath of the May 2022 discovery, the case did not receive any public press coverage. Astonishingly, the media and local community were not even notified that human remains had been found in the woods. For well over a year, the case quietly sat in law enforcement and medical examiner files with no public alerts or pleas for help. It was only in January of 2024, some 20 months later, that the existence of the Wadesboro Jane Doe became public knowledge. Only after a profile for the unidentified woman was finally posted on the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. This long delay in releasing information caused quite a bit of controversy. North Carolina actually has a law requiring that law enforcement enter unidentified persons into the NAM-US within 90 days if they remain unidentified. The Anson County Sheriff's Office never held a press conference in 2022, and local news outlets were completely unaware a body had been found until that NAM-US post alerted the wider community. This left many to believe that the Anson County Police may have been hiding something. The Sheriff's Department stayed quiet in the midst of journalists and locals demanding answers, only fueling the fire of both the local community and the online communities investigating the case. Through the police silence and lack of transparency, those in the public who followed this case had already brought in two prime suspects, April Michelle Reed and Amber Ray Johnston. Both of these women had planned trips that would involve passing through Wadesboro to get to Myrtle Beach, April having left on February 27th of 2021, and Amber leaving sometime in August. April was ruled out, however, due to the dental records not being a match, and unfortunately, April has still yet to be publicly identified. That left investigators with Amber, who was more of a challenge to identify, due to her dental records not being on file in recent years. Amber's story, on top of that, is quite complicated. Amber Ray Johnston was a mother of 5, originally from the Pittsburgh area of Pennsylvania. In 2021, 36-year-old Amber was living somewhat a transient lifestyle. She had spent time in Arizona and was known to travel around. She was described as kind-hearted, but struggling with some personal issues, including substance use and legal troubles. Amber's life in 2021 was complicated by an on-and-off relationship with a boyfriend, Jarrett Ward, and with whom had an involvement with a circle of people who, according to her family, were involved with drugs. By the summer of 2021, Amber was planning to leave that life behind and return home to Pennsylvania, but she never made it home. Sometime in early August of 2021, Amber was living in Bullhead City, Arizona. On August 8th, 2021, something strange reportedly happened. Amber went swimming with a man she had just met at the Colorado River and ended up briefly missing under odd circumstances. She had left her shoes, wallet, and phone on the shore with this acquaintance while she swam. The man went to go get a flotation device of some sort, and when he returned, Amber was gone. Fearing she might have drowned, he alerted authorities and even showed them Amber's ID, which had been left behind as proof of who was missing. A search with drones and rescue teams was launched. However, a few hours later, Amber's landlady contacted police to inform them that Amber had returned home, safely to her apartment. This incident deeply disturbed Amber's mother, Sharon, who found the story very strange. Sharon said Amber was normally a careful person who would never leave her ID and her clothes with a stranger, unless something was very wrong. The event raised red flags about Amber's mental health, and the question that she might have been stalked, as Amber herself told her mom she was unnerved by people around her. Around this time, she confided that she felt someone was following her, and that she was afraid of Jarrett and his mother. By August 16th, Amber decided to leave Arizona and head east. She had just recently broken up with Jarrett, who had left Arizona himself. Jarrett claimed he went to Vegas to get a bus ticket through a charity back to his home near Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Jarrett told Sharon that Amber was actually planning to meet him in South Carolina so that they could reconcile. However, Amber told a friend the complete opposite. She said that she wanted to get away from Jarrett's abuse and drug scene and instead go home to her family in Pittsburgh, possibly entering rehab. August 17th of 2021 was the last sighting of Amber in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Amber's cross-country journey mostly took place via a Greyhound bus. She apparently traveled from Arizona eastward by bus over a few days. On August 17th, Amber turned up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is the last place she was confirmed to be alive. Surveillance or witness saw her at the Winston-Salem Greyhound bus station that day. From what investigators pieced together, when Amber arrived there, she purchased a bus ticket to Pittsburgh, which would have been her ultimate destination. The ticket was paid for and issued in her name. But she never boarded that bus. Sometime after August 17th, Amber's Facebook account posted a video that baffled everyone that saw it. It was a silent cell phone video taken from inside a bus driving through Alabama, showing Highway Road and signs for Birmingham. The video did not show Amber's face or voice at all, just the view out of a bus window. This was puzzling because the Greyhound route Amber was on did not go through Alabama at all. Police strongly suspect someone else accessed Amber's Facebook and uploaded an old video onto it, perhaps to create a false trail or sow confusion. Friends of Amber later told her mother that they recognized that video as something Amber had recorded long before, as if someone wanted to throw them off of Amber's trail. Someone had her phone, and someone didn't want us to know where she went. On August 19th of 2021, there was a hit on Amber's trail in Charlotte, North Carolina. Records show Amber's mobile phone pinged in the Charlotte area that day. Charlotte is about 75 miles southwest of the Winston-Salem area and about 50 miles west of Wadesboro. Also on the 19th, Amber's ex-boyfriend Jarrett claimed that Amber used his EBT. From August 21st to 22nd of 2001 is when we get the trail cam sighting, as the trail camera in those woods captured a woman wandering alone, wearing only a bra and leggings. From the time of 1:30 to 4:30 a.m. and the appearance match that we know of Amber at this point, she was in North Carolina, likely without her phone, possibly with a bag of belongings that could have been left somewhere in those woods. The woman appears disoriented and very much in distress, consistent with someone who might have been lost for a couple of days. It is widely believed that this footage is of Amber Ray Johnston, meaning she somehow traveled, or was transported, roughly 90 miles east from Charlotte to Wadesboro in the days after she left Winston-Salem. How exactly she got there is still a mystery. The distance is far too great to have walked on foot in that short of a time span, especially barefoot and without supplies. Amber's mother even flatly rejects the notion that Amber walked 92 miles through unfamiliar rural areas on her own. After the trail cam encounter, there were no further confirmed sightings of Amber. She effectively vanished after August 22nd of 2021. When Amber never contacted her family or children again, they grew extremely worried. Sharon Johnston reported her daughter missing and began a relentless search, lobbying various police departments in both Arizona, Pennsylvania, and anywhere in between to investigate. Amber's case was entered into national databases like NAM-US and the Doe Network as a missing person. Months turned into years with no news. Amber's 5 children went through birthdays and even one grandchild's birth without knowing where their mother was. It wasn't until early 2024, when the Anson County Jane Doe case emerged publicly, that Sharon finally had a solid lead that could be connected to Amber. Upon seeing the trail camera stills on NAM-US, Amber's mother said, "I am 99.9% certain the woman in the trail camera image is my daughter." And it would not be until March 10th of 2025 that our Anson County Jane Doe got her name back. as Amber Johnston. She was positively identified after years of secrecy, mismanagement from the police, and silence on the case as a whole. With this case only coming to light in 2024, it is no wonder why it had been not only captivating, but also extremely frustrating and disheartening to both the community of Wadesboro and the Johnston family. The case is still being investigated to this day, as now it is no longer a missing persons case, but now being treated as a suspicious death case. Too many things here don't add up. How did she get here? Where was her phone, her ID, the shoes? And how did she end up 90 miles away from her last known location within getting on that bus? Looking through Google Maps and tracing the path she would have had to take to even make it to Wadesboro makes no sense for her to end up dead behind a National Guard armory, a high school, and a hospital, randomly lost in a forest, traveling through a creek. That doesn't add up unless there was foul play. Sharon has also been very vocal about the theory of someone else being involved with Amber's death, stating in an interview with the Anson Record, "I do know Amber did not get to that location on her own. She had no belongings, no phone, no shoes, no clothes." Sharon has repeatedly pointed out something that leans towards this being the case. Amber's financial accounts were being used. Arizona law enforcement confirmed that Amber's SNAP, her food stamp card, and her Social Security disability payments were drained for months after she disappeared. It was discovered that Jarrett Ward, the ex-boyfriend, at one point had sold Amber's EBT card to another named Jarrett Leary in exchange for drugs. Additionally, Amber's personal debit card was used by multiple people, all friends of Jarrett, to make online purchases in late 2021. How the hell did they get a hold of her belongings if they were not involved in her disappearance? With this being the case, Jarrett would be a prime suspect. There would be no other way for him to have access to belongings or financial accounts that would have been on her without him coming to her from Myrtle Beach to Winston-Salem. Unfortunately, we will never get that answer, as Jarrett passed away in 2022 from a drug overdose, long before Amber was confirmed to be the Anson County Jane Doe. But now that Amber's body had been found, Sharon still insists that the living person that used her SNAP while she was laying to rot in those woods needs to be questioned, and I firmly agree. She wants investigators to go after the individuals who are tangibly connected to Amber's property after her disappearance. These may be the very people who last saw Amber alive. At the top of that list is Jarrett Leary, who ended up with her food stamp card. There is also the matter of the mystery man who went swimming with Amber on August 8th. Although he does appear to have genuinely called authorities thinking she drowned, it is an odd event worth reviewing. And of course, anyone who might have given Amber a ride or lured her from Winston-Salem towards Wadesboro is of interest. Sharon strongly believes that someone knows something, and hopes that with Amber's identity known, witnesses or acquaintances will now come forward with information. As of early 2025, police have not publicly named any suspects or persons of interest in Amber's death. In fact, they have not even declared her death a homicide. It remains an undetermined death investigation. If the remains showed no obvious trauma, one possibility is that Amber succumbed to exposure or an overdose in the woods, but her mother doubts it was simply an accident. Many online communities and many locals to Anson County and the wider Wadesboro took action into their own hands with this case. With the sheer lack of police communication with the locals and how long it took for this case to even come to light, many were left to speculate and were left with anger towards the lack of care given to Amber's case, leaving many Facebook groups, YouTubers, and of course Reddit to come together trying to solve this case and to find out who she was and how she got where she inevitably had her final moments. But we still have questions to answer, and hopefully, sometime soon, we will get them. If you or anyone you know might have any information, please try and provide it to any of the groups that are in search, or to the Wadesboro Police Department. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and the covering of this case, please go ahead and let me know. Anyways, thank you for watching, and have a good night.